Hi, I'm John. We're restoring Corrick, a nearly 50-year-old Contessa 32. I was walking in probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago and I suddenly had I wonder where the hatch cover is. And I couldn't think that I'd seen it. I wasn't sure where it was, so went on a bit of a prowl and found it. It'd been safely put away. But it wasn't in great state, and so this is a short update on bringing the hatch cover back to life, which just goes to show that there's no such thing as a 15-minute job in boat building. So we'd found the hatch, but it had been sprayed earlier and it wasn't in great condition. Certainly underneath there was quite a lot of crazing and damage to the hatch, particularly where the clasp lock was. That was obviously going to need to be filled, so we got this fiberglass filler together. It's a two-part thing, so you mix it up in the order golf ball size to pea size pretty much, mash it all up, and it gives you a paste that actually can go in quite nicely. So we'd countersunk some holes in the top and masking taped it up so that it wouldn't go everywhere, squeezed it all in and fared it off as well as we could, and gave us this mushroom effect which allows us to have a physical as well as a chemical bond. I then cleaned it all off, rubbed it all down, cleaned it up, and then we needed a second filling, and this is again, it's a two-part filling, but much smaller quantities and going off much more quickly, but it was filling much smaller gaps, so that all went in. But as I say, it was much finer indeed than the glass fibre fitting. Next stage was to make sure that the housing into which it would slide was cleaned out, so I used a bit of vacuum cleaner and a tack rag on a stick and got in there, and I think I was probably removing muck that hadn't seen the light of day for many years. It might be worth mentioning that the tool that gets used the most is the hoover. I'm delighted, by the way, all the shaving, sandpapering, drilling and all those arisings are carefully cleaned up every few minutes. Keeping the working area clean and removing and reducing the risk of damaging the boat by having a sharp object removed is just great. But having got the hatch fully repaired and cleaned up, it was then a case of checking the smoothness of the operation and the clearances. Now, this stuff is 50 years old and maybe not fabulously straight, and I want it to open easily, but I also want it to be secure, both in a seaway and alongside. So we decided to add some small guide strips of Tufnol, and to get those exactly rightly sized, we simply added cut-down tongue depressors to get the size right, then cut the guides out and bonded them in with Sikaflex. Obviously that takes about 24 hours to cure off, so we had to hold them in place. Then it was spray time. Turns out there's some real technique in spraying, getting the right distance, the right angle, starting to spray off the target to avoid a splurge, smooth, even coats. First one way and then the other. Then hang it up to dry, and every hour or so put another coat on, until at such time as it's ready to take a coat of two-part lacquer. Again, the same spraying technique, and again it goes off really pretty quickly. The final thing that we'll do, and I've yet to do this yet, is to put some vinyl on the underside of the cover. The flagpole's been varnished and a brass fitting has gone onto the base of it, as we described earlier, and put that in earlier on today, and it needed to be just shortened ever so slightly, but we wanted to do that once the brass had been applied, so a little bit of Sikaflex, bit at the top, bit at the bottom, so that they worked against each other. Cleaned that up, then took it down, stuck it in a vise and just removed 6mm from the bottom, and then started to varnish that up as well. You'll remember from an earlier episode the ship registration number. Well, we put that in gold and have been varnishing that over the last couple of days, and it's beginning to look really rather nice, so we will fix that to the boat in the style that's required shortly. Another piece of work that we've had to do is to get the mast foot directly underneath the deck ring itself, and that's a very physical thing. We're doing this making sure it's lined up with the boat as a level or a plumb line just won't do it. We need to make sure that it's right to the boat, and that's a bit of careful measurement and looking it backwards and forwards and marking it all up. The missing winches turned up the other day, and they were very quickly fitted onto the coach roof and put together by myself and Nick, mostly Nick it has to be said, he was also busy, and he's put the housing for the transducer in and faired that all in. And underneath the boat there is a steadily growing list of things that need to go into the boat, and we're looking forward to fitting those over the next couple of weeks. So if there's one thing I've learned over the last couple of weeks, it is that the finishing touches and the amount of effort that goes into some of the simplest things, whether that be a little bit of varnishing, whether it be a bit of painting, whether it be a bit of cutting the metal to exactly the right size, is that there are degrees to which this can be done, and perfection is genuinely quite difficult to get towards and takes a lot of time being out of it. I hope you've enjoyed this video.